something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Time we stopped. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Welcome.
Hello.
It's day release. Me, Clive Davis, and who are you over there?
It's me, Robin, and we've got it's our 10th anniversary today.
Is it?
Yes. It's our 10th,
Oh yes, our 10th show. Yeah, there
10th,
we go.
10th,
Yeah,
10th show, not anniversary.
there we go.
Yeah,
It's
so
been,
it's going strong. Last month was a bit of a low point, but I can't even. Well, yeah, they were okay films, weren't they? They were quite good films, but yeah. Hopefully this month we'll have some good stuff to
well,
talk about.
that's always the hope that we'll raise our game, right?
Yeah.
We don't. But
Sort of,
but you seem less tired than you normally do at this time of night.
True. Been quite stressed. With work.
Even
So,
you.
and then I think.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, no, I think the thing is,
adrenaline.
I think maybe then I kind of then must have just conked out and then sort of refreshed myself or something. I did have a sleep earlier on as well, so that was
That helps.
good. Yeah, but yeah, it seems I seem awake. I feel awake-ish. So that's good. And how are you?
Good.
We doing? How are you? Good.
Yeah. It's always a exciting, good part of the show.
It is. Yeah, people want to know. We've got
how we are doing.
quite the
They're
following
worried
now.
about it.
Yeah.
Right. With that out the way, then.
Yeah. What are we
so
doing
we're
this
talking,
week, Clive?
we're talking three relatively recent releases. That's the whole thing. You know, we kind of need a bit of a nudge to keep up to date so we don't live completely in the past. So we try and tackle three. They might not be in your theaters right now, or they might be, or they might have. But, you know, relatively recent films.
Yep.
That's the exciting remit of the relatively recent film.
Yeah. With no clips.
No,
Yeah.
just us.
Yeah. So you have to use your imagination. It's brilliant format. It's like
we got Prisoners of the Ghostland,
Yep.
The Northman, and Crimes of the Future. So there's a vague kind of fantasy cinema connection, right? I guess.
Yep. I think they went together fairly well. So yeah, should we do the intro to Prisoners of the Ghostland? It's just saying Prisoners of Ghostland, but it's Prisoners of the Ghostland.
Prisoners of the Ghostland. Yes.
Yeah.
So this actually the oldest of our three. I think this actually came out in was made in 2020, right? But was out last year. I don't know. Was it like a film that you saw posters on the sides of buses?
I think I saw a poster somewhere. I like the poster. It's a good poster.
I haven't seen the poster.
The poster's very nice, colourful. It's got a samurai, kind of junky samurai type thing on the front of it. And then Nicolas Cage standing on there with a sword sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. Are you part of the Nicolas Cage fandom? Are you a Nick guy?
I think I could become one. But yeah, I mean, I like the guy. I think well, I think we can get into that because this film somewhat kind of has drawn me in a bit. I was scheduled to watch Mandy at some point, and then I've got it on my list, and
Oh yeah.
I haven't watched that. It's another one of these sort of modern, the new era of Nicolas Cage where he's
Yes, the
floating
Nicolas
around
Cage
and
Renaissance, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but in a
That and Pig and a few other bits and pieces
yeah.
are getting good reviews, right? And I suppose this kind of fits into that a little bit as well. It seems like material he's chosen that he wants to, as opposed to just done anything to keep up with his taxes or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. It's
I think so. I mean, I hated this film, but it does feel like something he's wanted to make as opposed to
yeah.
just paying the.
Well, should we do the plot in as much as there is?
Yeah, go for it, Robin.
It involves. Oh, I had a little visual gag to add to it. Perhaps I should nip out. It doesn't matter. I had.
Is it a good visual gag?
It was going to be good, but then I forgot while we were talking before the thing. Anyway.
Well, I tell you what we could do is I could do a plot rundown.
Yeah.
While you run out and get it.
It'll be really obvious now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But anyway.
Well, let's do it anyway. It'll be fun.
Huh? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, all right, okay. So this seems to be set in either an alternative dimension or a near future or something like that. Kind of a cross between Wild West and Edo era Japan. And the governor of a small town as played by Bill Moseley, whose daughter, as played by Sofia Boutella, has run away with some other girls into the kind of deserts surrounding Wasteland, the Ghostland surrounding this town. So they send convicted bank robber Nicolas Cage in kind of Escape from New York style. They put him in this figure-hugging leather suit which has explosives attached to his testicles and his arms, and he has a certain time limit to
Set to change my trousers, Clive.
Right. Oh no, what's going on there?
I got these new trousers from. They were in the charity shop. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, is there a time limit? Do they? I was just explaining about the
time limit. Time limit for what?
Do those things on the front explode?
I don't think so. The checkout girl didn't say that.
Okay. Right. How far are we taking this gag now?
I don't know.
Are you going to edit in like exploding testicles? Or?
I think probably. Yeah, it might happen.
Maybe your testicles might explode. Yeah. What actually are those on the front of your jeans? They look like rice balls.
What these?
Yeah. Are they chicken nuggets or what are they?
Well, originally they were going to be eggs and eggshells, and then I realised that I had some sort of bread rolls that I could.
Oh, they're bread rolls. Okay. Fantastic. Value for money. This.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where else would you get that kind of committed cosplay to go along with it?
Anyway, yeah,
cosplay. That might become a theme if you're not careful. You have to bring a piece of cosplay for each show.
Oh yeah. Anyways.
So
somehow you managed to get through the plot though. That's good.
I did, yeah. And then he goes. Well, I got as far as the setup.
Yeah.
And then kind of beyond that, I don't know. It's a bit. I mean, yeah, basically he just meets a bunch of weirdos out in the Ghostland, and I don't know if we want to go. I mean, yeah, that's the setup, right? It's basically
He saves the girl. I mean, there's no real plot.
No, it's a bunch of stuff happens. It's very episodic, right?
It's
yeah, and it's really, 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 really annoying and self-consciously wacky and zany and fuck this thing grated on I didn't like this film one bit.
Yeah, I think well, okay, it depends how you view it, right? Because I haven't seen a Nicolas Cage film in ages and ages and ages. Because like I said, I had Mandy on my list, but maybe if I'd been following what was going on with Nicolas Cage, but it's sort of like the way I view it is like a sort of, it's basically, it's like, it seems like someone's like almost like there was a really, really, really wealthy teenager wrote a script in college and got it made with Nicolas Cage. It seems like that, but it's almost is that, but isn't that. So do you know who that guy? So the one who that directed it, what's his name again?
Sion Sono.
Yeah. Are you a fan of his then, or not?
I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I do find him, or did, because the one thing that happened to him. So this was his big kind of American Japanese co-production debut, right? Like, because he's a fairly prolific director, and finally he's got to the stage. Yes, I can crack the US market with my Nicolas Cage, and then he goes and gets cancelled on sexual harassment charges.
Oh,
right, yeah. So his career seems to, at least temporarily, be on hold.
Okay.
And actually, the other guy in this film, the guy, the main one who plays like the samurai fella.
Oh yeah.
Sakaguchi.
Yeah.
He's also. So basically, Sion Sono was accused in some magazine of sexual harassment, and then Sakaguchi came forward and said, actually, yes, I'm the man referred to as T in that article who enabled Sion Sono by procuring some girls for him. So
okay.
I don't know the exact details, and there hasn't been a trial or anything like that, so we don't know who's good. But certainly he's been cancelled for the time being. Anyway.
Okay.
And I think that the thing is, have you not seen any of his other films?
No. I looked them up and I've not seen anything.
So the thing is, I think some of the type of films he's made, in that, and I'm not claiming for a minute that I don't believe the charges or anything like that. We'll still see about all that, but it is one of those things where he made certain types of films where it combined with sexual harassment charges doesn't look good. I mean, there's one of his films that I do actually quite like, called Love Exposure. Like, the main character or main protagonist is someone who practices tosatsu, which is the art of upskirt panty photography. Like, that's our main protagonist. He's our hero. Now, obviously, the film's supposed to be, provocative and not supposed to be taken seriously necessarily, but all his films have that kind of content in, which it seems like unfairly maybe, but seems like it seems like evidence in a kind of public trial by social media when someone's suddenly accused of dodgy stuff.
Like Woody Allen's films were all about some old guy named Bloody Allen.
Right, exactly. So it's not a good look. Like, even if, in the case of Woody Allen, even if he's been technically just not guilty or whatever, it's very easy for people to feel uneasy or creepy about him, right? Because
yeah,
doesn't mean he's guilty, but it's still
if you so the two writers, right? So they're both American, Aaron Hendry and Reza. Well, Reza is half Iranian.
Reza Sixo Safai.
Yeah, he's half Iranian. But
Okay.
I looked up Aaron Hendry on YouTube, and I found a profile of someone who looked a bit like his IMDb profile, and then so those, and I feel like it is him because one of this sort of like dance-esque, because he's got this. He's only this is the first time he's ever written anything. Most of his stuff seems to be voice acting or acting or whatever. And yeah, so the weird sort of chanting in unison thing.
Yes.
Aaron Hendry on his YouTube thing has got like these weird dance. They almost look like straight out of this film. So that's kind of if that was what annoyed you, that he could be responsible for that, because that was pretty annoying.
Right.
Always annoying having people talk in unison. Like,
well,
it's
the thing about, I don't know, it's that kind of level of like, whoa, isn't this weird? Where, and it's just like seems for the sake of it, and like when they all start singing, "My grandfather's clock was too tall for the shelf," and what the.
Yeah,
it's gonna be ruined.
It's either trying to be weird or it is someone's genuine dream that they had. And you could, I could picture having exactly that dream, actually with Nicolas Cage in it. In my dream. And then if I had the power to make a film, I probably wouldn't make it, but they did.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Is at some point between the dreaming and all the stuff that's required to make a film, a sensible person would.
Yeah, fuck ton of work, and it's also like there is a lot of attention to detail and a lot of work that's gone into it.
There is. It's great production design. It looks good. I mean, it's well shot and all that stuff. But it's just it's so piled up on weird, wacky, weird. It just collapses under its own weight, right? It's just bleh. It's
however, in its defense, because I will defend it a little bit, because Nicolas Cage liked it, and then for me it was like this sort of annoying dream. I agree with you. A lot of the annoying stuff is really fucking annoying. Mainly for me, it wasn't trying to be all weird. That was annoying, but the main thing was the like stupid, weird, annoying characters who, like the rat man who's got, it's like you can't understand him very well and he's kind of lispy. And okay, on the one hand, right, it's a post-apocalyptic world, and yes, you can almost drift yourself into this sort of or acclimatize yourself to the idea, I guess, or to this world where everything's fucking like everyone behaves really sort of like sort of hyperactive, annoying, weird mental children who are
like people in like a Mad Max film or something like that, right?
Yeah, or I was thinking more like is it Jean Miro, whatever his name is? No, the guy. Who is the I can't remember his name. Anyway, but it was sort of like a bad dream, and then the thing that sort of kept me going in it was Nicolas Cage being like half the time looking like, what the fuck am I doing here? And also just somehow he's like, it was like he was carrying an entire film on his back, and the film was full of shit actors who were taunting him all the time.
Well, the interesting thing that I noticed about this as well is, as a long-time Nick Cage fan, there's a kind of rule of thumb with Nick Cage where no matter what film he's in, no matter how terrible the film is, or Nicolas Cage always seems to have one scene in every film he's in, where it's like the director fell asleep behind the camera or something, and Nick Cage has taken over for like a minute. Like he'll suddenly have a freak out.
Yeah.
Even in something like National Treasure or something like that, there's like one bit where Nick Cage it's Nick Cage Day, right? Like, woo, today I get to do my thing. And in this film, because there's so much wacky shit going on, it's totally drowned out. So Nick Cage doesn't have a proper Nick Cage moment in this film.
No, it does have one with the.
He's drowned out by all this background bollocks, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's like a film where, where they're taunting him for having, like, sort of, for having found himself in this weird B-movie reality that he's now in. It's almost like a film about Nicolas Cage's psychodrama that he's in at the moment.
I think you're giving this film a lot.
But it does have deliberate visual references to cinema. I think that like Harold Lloyd, the clock tower thing, or maybe Back to the Future, that clock tower seems some.
Right, Safety Last,
Maybe Harold.
It is Harold Lloyd.
Yeah, it did have a sort of Harold Lloyd-ish, them pulling the time, that surrealist sort of, nonsensical thing. But it wasn't. But it wasn't very good. But and I do feel like they the director, didn't. But he's got this reputation, it seems, from what I've looked at, of being a very good visual storyteller.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean,
I saw one clip and it looked. Some of his other stuff does look good,
I mean, the thing with Sion Sonai is because he's very prolific as well, so it's kind of difficult to keep up with him. There's always something new coming out. So I haven't seen all his films. Of the ones I have seen, though, ones I've liked more than others. Like I like Love Exposure, for example, and some of his other films are a bit more like trying your, not as much as this one, but they kind of try your patience. There's one called Tokyo Tribe, which is like a rap musical, which is I found that really hard going, and they all have a slightly hysterical pitch and like too much going on, but in the past I've always I admire someone trying something different, at least, even if it doesn't work. All his films are kind of, and he has certain tropes and kind of foibles he comes back to again and again in the mix, and that's okay. But this one for me, it just I think this was this is the least favorite the worst Sion Sono film I've seen easily.
A lot of it was like when I like surrealist stuff and I like to be surrealist myself, and then I find it very frustrating when someone says something that they think is surreal and it's sort of either a cliche or like a surrealist cliche, like like what it would be like if there were all these dolls everywhere.
We were all spoons.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Well, I think the thing with something kind of being weird or strange or I always appreciate if it just comes from a place of where it doesn't necessarily think it's strange, like it's they've reached a certain conclusion or a way of thinking, and it's totally organic, and so the other Sion Sono films I've seen, all the kind of the ones I've liked the most, or the elements I've liked the most in them, is when the strange things you're seeing on screen seem to come from a place of genuine kind of passion or like things that interest him. But this film just seems like things, maybe because it's been scripted by someone else. It's they're not. They just, I don't know. They just seem to be. It's as if someone has set out to deliberately try and make a cult film, and cult films happen naturally, right? They become cult films. This seems like they've sat down and they've like, right, let's make a cult film and put Nicolas Cage in it, and we'll get Sion Sonner to direct it because he's hot at the moment.
Yeah,
it just seems very contrived to me.
Yeah, it could have been that scenario. You're like not a passion project of his, maybe, but I don't know. Yeah, there's a but yeah, and it's also like, again, if you look at that guy, if you look at what's his name again, Aaron Diggy Bob. If you look at his, if that is him, which I swear it could well be. Anyway, it's like that. It's like a.
Hedging your bets there. I swear, absolutely, my.
Listen, I will. If
Without
I'm
a
wrong,
doubt, there's a possibility that he might be.
Strike me down with a feather. Anyway, yeah, it's like theatrical, isn't it? You know, in a lot of like places, it seems, and it makes it seem really low budget, but at the same time, it's I don't know what the budget was, but they put a lot of money.
No, you're right. You're quite right. Actually, that's a good point. It does have these good production values, but when there's people just like the cast of Why Don't You or something that people let loose, it does cheapen it. It does bring it down because it just does feel like people just and why am I watching this? Like they haven't gone to the trouble of giving it any sort of form, but again, obviously they have. Films don't just get made.
No,
right?
no, they would have put a lot of effort into. I mean, like for example, all talking in unison. It's so fucking annoying, but then they would have put so much effort into that.
Exactly,
It would have been really, really hard to do something so
like
annoying.
It's like a wanky fucking 20-minute guitar solo in a it's annoying, but you have to work really hard to be able to get to that level of annoying, right?
Or 12 keyboard solo.
Right. Yeah. So it's always confounding when there's that weird mix of someone putting in a lot of effort for something that ends up like.
Another unintentional thing, so I think we're gonna have to stop. No, we're not that soon. But was because there was what's his name, Cassavetes.
Nick Cassavetes.
Nick Cassavetes.
Very big.
Very huge, yes, as a person. And there was some. I don't know. Yeah, there's so much weird overacting and then so much weird underacting as well. So Sophia Boutella was sort of trying to really. It's like she must be new. Like she's trying to kind of at least deliver a subtle performance in a film that just will not allow any room for that. What's going on there? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Whether she's I mean, I actually sort of enjoyed it somewhat in that I just I enjoyed watching Nicolas Cage, which I haven't seen for a really long time.
Yeah, if you hadn't seen Nicolas Cage for a while, then I can kind of see that.
I enjoyed watching him like having to react to all these like annoying things and find some material for himself to eke out of it each time. Like, what is he going to do here? What is he going to do here? You know, and it was like they were taunting him the whole way through, trying to make him like walk off the set. Yeah. There's no way you can be weird.
That's an interesting theory, actually. Nicolas Cage is always the beardy guy on set.
Yeah.
But this one time, haha.
Yeah. There was like a competitive thing running through. You get the feeling that they all enjoyed. It's most of the time as well through that film. Most of the time, it was almost felt like they'd just said cut, and they were just still larking about, you know?
Right.
Like it really felt like that, like because the set was and the lighting and everything was like slightly unfinished or something. It looked like it looked like they were all walking about kind of. It's so weirdly staged. Like that's the one thing you can say was weird. It was weirdly staged.
Super self-indulgent.
Yeah, sure, but it maybe not intentionally so weirdly staged like a theatre set sort of thing. Maybe, but regardless, it was like being on set. It was like that was the one feeling. It was like being on set.
That is a very Sion Sono touch. A lot of Sion Sono films seem to have these set pieces where it is kind of like a stage, like they've set up a certain space and then it's crammed with people like doing things. Like that is a very
it was like Rent, the play. That's what it looked.
I've never seen Rent, but I can kind of imagine what you mean.
I've not seen Rent, but I've seen what Rent looks like.
I paid the rent. Roseanne.
Yeah. No. Yes, I mean. Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
It's brilliant.
No, you don't think it was brilliant. Come on now. What?
No.
I just full out hated it. But clearly it didn't. I mean, even though you did mention the bits of it were annoying, it clearly doesn't seem to have really irritated you like it did me. You seem to be a bit more
Like I said, I enjoyed each new challenge that was presented. Like, okay, how's Nicolas Cage gonna like the suit with the testicle things? That I enjoyed that as well. I liked the the tiny little bombs around his penis, around his balls. I mean, and then things did irritate me. Like he drives off, and you think, okay, it's beginning to spin so and then he stops and gets on a bicycle, rides that and then they decide, actually, no, he's not gonna.
No, that's a perfect example, right? That's something which is like so control because obviously there's no. They didn't give any it's just wouldn't it be funny if and then they realized that's not going to work for the rest of the film. But then rather than cut their darlings, kill their darlings, they've kept it in because they've
in,
that's the thing. They haven't excised anything.
And I didn't know whether. Well, I didn't know whether.
I'm trying to get my rent joke in again.
What? Sorry.
I paid the rent.
All right. Like that bit in our show where we just randomly said.
It's infecting our show now. This because I've paid the rent.
But I forgot what I was going to say about that. But they forget it.
Can we? All right, because I paid the rent.
Good stuff. All right.
So we'll jump off. Is it? It makes more sense and we'll get on. Okay, right.
Recording stopped.
are we
Recording in
doing
progress.
the next review in a slightly Scandi accent throughout? Robin that goes a bit Scottish and Irish every now and again.
What are you talking about, Clive? I watched the Northman and I enjoyed it. No, I didn't really enjoy it very much. Are we going to differ about this one now?
Maybe to degrees more than anything else. I certainly didn't, because I had quite high hopes for. Yes, we're talking the Northman. Because I'd seen Robert Egg's previous films, The Witch and
I enjoyed that. The what you said, The Witch.
Yeah. Did you see The Lighthouse?
No, I didn't see that.
The Lighthouse was good as well. So I like Norse mythology stuff, and he's very much seems to be, a director who takes care, and so I was really looking forward to this. And yeah, I have to say there's a bit of a, from what I understand, this is the first time he hasn't had final cut on a film as well, right? From what I've been reading, this was his first huge big budget studio film, and that's always a bit of a challenge, I think, for younger filmmakers.
Because it was advertised to hell, wasn't it? I mean, in Britain anyway. I don't know about in Japan, but it was
not so much here, but I know it was there.
It was on loads of buses and whatnot, and I saw it everywhere. But it was anyway. Should we do the plot? I've watched it 3 weeks ago, so I can't actually remember the plot very well. It's a revenge plot. That's it.
Yeah, so basically it's a kind of loose adaptation or version of the Hamlet story, right? Which apparently is kind of an early version of the legend that would kind of transform into Shakespeare's Hamlet, right?
Oh, okay.
There's a film from a few years ago called Prince of Jutland with Christian Bale, which is kind of the same myth, I guess. So yeah, it's in North Atlantic, AD 895, they say, and basically it's a story about a kind of a king, as played by Ethan Hawke, who's murdered by his brother, Clive, who also takes his queen for his queen, as played by Nicole Kidman, and the young boy, the prince, has vowed to take vengeance. He grows up to be Alexander Skarsgård, who was Tarzan once. I've never actually seen his Tarzan film, but
was he? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was Tarzan.
He was in. I knew him from True Blood. I quite enjoyed True Blood at times, and I quite enjoyed his character in True Blood. I couldn't work out where I'd seen him from. Anyway, so
he's an interesting. He's one of those actors who I think has yet to find his place exactly, because he's clearly a man who's really interested in doing different things. He likes challenging himself,
and also kind of take a role and make it, give it an edge of gloominess. And he's also, because he's blonde as well. I don't know if that's my prejudice, but I feel like within the realms of acting, blonde people can find it difficult to really be gloomy, but has managed to do that really well. I don't know if you agree with that, but he seems to have managed to do that. In True Blood, that's what he was, a super gloomy, hemoglobin free.
That's the vampire show. Was that the one with Anna Paquin?
Yeah.
Right, I think I saw some episodes of that, and it seemed to be all right. That slightly southern kind of gothic.
Yeah, it was southern gothic. Yeah. It was better than it until it got shit. But it was better than it sort of purport. You would think on the surface, sort of thing.
I think I saw some of it, and better than like the Vampire Diaries or something like that.
Oh yeah, I've not seen that. Can't.
No. What I was going to say about him is he's that kind of. He seems like, on the one hand, he seems like he has the soul or the desire of a good character actor, but because he's kind of handsome and buff, he's also someone you can imagine they try and push into more leading man roles.
Yeah.
So he's kind of midway between the two, right? Like, I'm not sure if he's, but in this film, I don't think he's the problem with this film. He's fine. Like,
yeah. It's just not much of a plot, is it? That's the thing, I'd say.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got the basic vengeance thing, which is fairly simple, but well, the thing is, it's too fucking long for a start. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it kind of descends into like a weird like medieval soap opera or something for periods of time, right? As Robert Eggers is a great visual director, and there's really good set pieces in this. Some bits are really good. I think it's not terrible at all. It looks really great, and there's some really nice set pieces. But then all of a sudden, it kind of slows down for people to talk quite a lot.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember what I was thinking, but I just found it a bit flat and dull.
Yeah, it is weirdly like it has peaks. It has some really good bits, especially when it's nothing to do. When it focuses on like a extended like a battle set piece, isn't there? When he goes to war and he pulls that stuff off really well because it has that kind of momentum, and then that scene ends, and then you have to have some people talking a little bit, or it feels the need that you need to have that. And I don't know how much of that was imposed on him, but obviously he shot that stuff, right? So even if it's not his cut, he did shoot all that talky stuff, right? So I'm not sure if he's totally absolved of blame. And the other thing I think that doesn't work at all is the romantic angle, right? So on the one hand, it's this hard-edged medieval like revenge fantasy with gore and places being pillaged and violence and all that. But then there's this whole thing where he falls for this slave as played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and he suddenly becomes a bit of a softie and falls in love, and really
trying to do what sort of, I can't remember, but were they trying to do a sort of reverse Macbeth type? Like it had some sort of Shakespearean feel to it, like. But
well, that would be the Hamlet.
But I mean, it's I haven't read Hamlet, but I mean, I think I don't know. For me, what was just missing was those people believed in. I don't know. Believed in every kind of mythological thing they believed. It was as a fundamental part. And with The Witcher, for example, The Witch, sorry, not The Witcher. The thing that was really good about that was the level to which you were in their headspace, in terms of their beliefs and their belief system and how and how that
there's
was.
also the scene where he's kind of the Willem Dafoe character as and gets them to get down on all fours on like dogs and eat out of the bowl and stuff, and then the prince puts his hand in his father's wound and he's connected to this thing called the Tree of Kings, right? Which is that was the same as well. That was like they separate between like this is their belief system and reality. It was just total immersion and this is their reality, right? So the fantasy and the reality just totally mixed, right? It wasn't, you were in that world, you were in that headspace, and I appreciated that. You're quite right. They did a good kind of job with that. You know, like what I mean is they've gone for it, right? Rather than just shoot it like a historical thing and then have them just talking about that stuff. It's more like a trip. It's like a.
Are you talking about in the Northman or in?
Yeah.
I know. I didn't think they did that very well. No.
Oh, sorry. You were talking about the film The Witch.
Yes.
All right.
Are we getting confused? I'm getting confused.
I got confused. Yeah.
Okay.
No. So what you were saying in The Witch, what they did good was like, yeah. So
the immersion aspect, but into the reality of it. Yeah. But in this, I didn't feel like they did do that very well.
I think there were moments of pockets where they pulled it off, but
I think
like it was very some of those scenes, like that scene when he becomes a man or whatever, I thought those were quite well done. But again, it was like the action set pieces. It was like, okay, that's finished now. Now let's have a bit of talking for a bit.
Yeah.
And what it should have been all those good bits strung together.
Yeah.
And a shorter film, and then it would be more like phantasmagorical.
Phantom Menace.
No. I'll pay the rent. And you know what I mean? It was almost like there's like a good 90 like I don't know if you ever saw that film. There's a Nicholas Winding Refn film called Valhalla Rising, which is his kind of Viking film, and the good with Mads Mikkelsen. And the good thing about that is it's trippy, and it's not super long, and it's like Nicholas Winding Refn does it. He's got the timing right, like it sucks you in. It's like a dream or it's like a trip, and then it finishes and it's great. The thing with this film, what I found was like, it's almost if there is a 90-minute film there which flows really nicely from one scene into another, almost as pure visual storytelling. But then they cut it and stuck in these boring talky bits.
Yeah, it was like they were trying to be 3 different films. There's sort of ethereal, surrealist, fancy thing that, I think both of us like a lot.
That's the film we wanted.
The trippy ones.
Yeah.
I do, when I go back in time like that, I like to go to the most fucked up sort of place that they can take me, if possible, because they were always on mushrooms, or they were on they would enhance their I'm talking out my arse now, but I know that like the Celts would take mushrooms and things like that to sort of bring them, and I think, as far as I watched a whole series on the Celts, but I don't know where I got this from, so I'm not sure whether it's correct, but I think they took, they would take magic mushrooms onto the battlefield and get.
Well, I think so, because I think that's where the legend of the berserker, the slain style berserker, the warp spasm is basically someone tripping and going mental.
Yeah, and like that stuff is so good and still has never been really harnessed. Like, and then
me and Nick talk about this all the time. How there seriously needs to be a proper slain film.
Oh yeah, no, that would be great. But anyway, but there's also then a romance film in this, and then there's also a there's an attempt to be an action film where the hero, comes of age and gets revenge, and you're supposed to follow him in that way. But that none of them work because they only do a bit of each.
Right? Yeah, his character is so, like, on the one hand, he's, they even say to him that, oh, you've got to heart of cold iron, and you're just basically he's a psychopath at the beginning of the film when he's grown, and then all of a sudden he's some kind of honorable family man.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's just weird. It's just like no. That character you introduced us to at the beginning, he would have just raped the Anya Taylor-Joy character, right? So it's just you're right. It's weird. It's pulling in different directions. And then the accent. I mean, the accents thing wouldn't bother me in another film, but I think because I wasn't totally sucked into it, I started thinking about this weird kind of. So neither have they haven't gone the route of just having people talk in their normal accents, which would potentially work, and neither have they gone the other way and got people to actually learn Old Norse or something like that. So instead, everyone just talks a little bit Icelandic, Scottish, Irish in this, and some people are better at doing it than others. Like Nicole Kidman just seems stupid doing it for some reason.
I can't remember what she sounds like.
I'm not having a go at it, but for some reason it just sounds ridiculous coming out of her mouth.
My baby alive.
It's just really strange. Some people are better, and I love Anya Taylor-Joy, but she's doing some kind of Russian-y thing, right? And it just seems, don't do that. It's kind of undercutting your performance somehow.
They should have all agreed on one general voice. It is. What was the film? I can't remember what I was watching the other day when it was set somewhere. I can't remember what I was watching. It was set somewhere, and so they did an approximation. So it's like, set in South America. I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, but it's sort of like that with it. Yeah. So it's it's set in Yugoslavia, so they all do a Russian accent or whatever, that sort of thing. And it's like but it was worse than that actually. Anyway, I can't remember.
No, there's ways you can get around these things, right? I'm not saying you have to be either authentic or totally sorry, but I don't know. It was just noticeable to me, and it shouldn't be, right? It shouldn't be something that you're concentrating on. Is who has the silliest sounding kind of cod Scandinavian accent, right? And it just means that the rest of the film isn't really working the way it should be, right? And again, I don't think this was terrible, but it's just and when it gets to like it doesn't build, right? Like when it gets to the gates of hell climax, like the final fight between him and his uncle, it's I mean it doesn't really is that it? No.
I think
it was all building for that.
I didn't really care by then what happened.
It's oddly. I didn't expect a Robert Eggers film to be honest, boring, and it is boring for parts of it. It's like again, parts of it are quite good, and I have the will to like it, but no.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm just
co-written by Sjorn, who also was involved in writing that film Lan we watched.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which we enjoyed more, I think.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. That built up some horrible tension, didn't it? Really.
Yeah.
And again, it was well, we've spoken about it before, but it was immersive in its own environment. Worked. Yeah.
But I think it is a classic. The Northman is classic. Young upcoming filmmaker stumbles for the first time with a huge budget and studio pressure. Right? It's classic that, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it could be. You wouldn't get the full story of that until much later.
Yeah, well, that's what he said as well. That he said he might prepare some kind of director's cut or something at some point.
Right.
His version of it, which could be. I suspect it's just flawed at its source, really. But
yeah, but
I'm still happy to see. Like, I'd like to see what Robert Eggers does next. And now that he's got flushed the big budget debut thing out of his system.
Yeah, and it made a lot of money. I think it didn't do badly. But
yeah, I don't know if it washed its face or not, but it certainly it wasn't a huge hit, but I don't think it tanked either.
No. But I mean, yeah, I can imagine it had a lot of pushing and pulling going on there. With these sort of big name actors and stuff, and bigger name actors, and yeah, they should have stuck Nicolas Cage in there. Sort it out. Yeah. Do you think Nicolas Cage will do any serious films ever again? I mean,
just a self-referential kind of.
Yeah, because I mean, it's so strange, right? Yeah, just will it cycle back, or what's gonna, is he ever gonna get get to do a film that isn't sort of deliberately kind of on the wackier side or whatever. I mean, even if it's good, like it.
I'm wondering what maybe best for Nicolas Cage is like, rather than a leading man anymore, is he kind of settles into that sort of career of turning up in films in small parts and like just stealing the show, rather than carrying the whole film. Because I think if he wants to carry the whole film, then he has to go back to doing. I don't think he's going to be allowed to do that necessarily in major movies, unless he goes back to doing like his Leaving Las Vegas thing, which is more kind of serious and less kind of goofy and self-referential. Yeah. And I don't think he's going to be able to do big movies like that. So the only way he can do that is he has to go back into doing direct-to-video films and things again, right?
Okay. All right, should we move on to our? Yeah. No, I'm curious to see that he's had quite a bit of success, hasn't he, off the back of sort of these more strange films, and I wonder whether there is a secret desire to sort of tackle more weighty material as well.
Well, it also depends on whether he's paying his taxes nowadays or not, right? Because that was the thing for a while there, was apparently he was just working so much in anything that came along because the tax man was after him, right? Because he's a notorious spender, right?
He's buying
European castles and shipping them over to the US, and he has loads of sports cars and things.
Boris Becker, but for Boris Becker.
Was Boris Becker a big spender?
He ended up in prison, didn't he, for fraud because he.
Did he?
Yeah, because he because me and Claire for one of these conferences stayed in one of his hotels in Germany.
Okay.
It was a really smoky room because everyone's allowed to smoke in the room. Anyway, but it had pictures of Boris Becker everywhere.
Really?
In the hotel, yeah. Boris Becker.
I didn't know Boris Becker had
breakfast cards. Well, he doesn't anymore. He's lost everything because he got involved in some sort of fraud. But yeah, I was just thinking about how much tennis he had to play to pay off his debts. It's really old. So similar.
Would you like to stay in a Nicolas Cage hotel?
Fuck yes.
Yeah, I think I would as well.
Even if it was horribly smoky, I'd go right with it. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. But but although to some extent you'd expect it. Although Nicolas Cage but yeah, smoked. But yeah, anyway, it was yeah. I don't know what that would be like really, but
but now maybe he's paid his tax, and Nicolas Cage could say, for example, I've paid my rent.
oh yeah,
There we go.
yeah, it's definitely working for you.
Yeah, it's becoming my catchphrase. I've paid my rent.
Yeah. I should come up with my own sort of needlessly surreal, out of context thing as well.
Catchphrase.
Jumper! Jumper! Woo!
Oh no, we've wandered back into the Ghostland.
Yeah. Anyway, that'll do.
Right. Okay, so we've got one more film.
It's a great film.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad we agree.
Yes,
Yeah.
This is definitely the highlight of this
Yeah.
show.
Mm.
This is the best film. I don't know whether I was talking about it. The highlight,
Yeah.
but so David Cronenberg's latest, right? Crimes of the Future.
Yeah.
Canadian, Greece, UK production, apparently.
Mm.
Same title as a 1970 David Cronenberg film, like one of his kind of student films, like before he became a commercial filmmaker. But that's really, that's not worth seeing.
It wasn't the same film. Because he said he wrote this in like 1992 or something.
Yeah, basically anything that Cronenberg made like pre his commercial debut with Shivers is very hard to get on with, very super pretentious and boring, and so I wouldn't bother with that stuff if I were you.
This is when when he was part of this with Ivan Reitman Canadian collective cooperative.
No, that would have been when because I think Ivan Reitman was the producer on Shivers, right? So I think that was when he commercial, and I love Shivers, and also probably worth mentioning that as well as everything else. I mean, this is kind of, we'll get into this, but I was slightly trepidatious about going into Crimes of the Future because I'd heard Mark Kermode's review of the film.
Oh yeah.
Which is not a negative review, and he's a big Cronenberg fan. But the way he kind of laid it out was, he said, well, it's like a footnote to the great Cronenberg film. Because it's kind of a bit of a greatest hits of Cronenberg, right? And therefore not necessarily one of his greatest. And to a certain extent, I think he's right. I think it is the greatest hits of Cronenberg. There's stuff from Videodrome and Existence, and even
Existence is the one that I was thinking of. Yeah, I was just trying to remember. That's the one with the controllers, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And the Crash, and even a bit of History of Violence and Eastern Promise. It does feel like
I don't know. To me, that's Commode being Commode-ish. I find that annoying, to be honest.
I think he's right. I think he's right about the greatest hits thing, but I think this film did so much more than that as well. So I disagree with it. I don't think it's just that. I think there's that in there if you want to see it. But I think this film totally works on its own terms, as well as being a bit of a kind of greatest hits package.
I don't know. Isn't that sort of the universe of having these sort of not that I would have seen as many as Cronenberg films as you and Commode, but the universe of having this sort of fleshy, Geiger-esque, kind of body dysmorphia almost aspect to the future. It's just a continuation rather than a pastiche.
No. That's what I mean.
It serves the writing.
I think it's both. Because I think Cronenberg's such a great filmmaker. I think that he's self-aware enough that he kind of cuts it off at the pass, right? So he knows that that's in there. He knows that he has these. So I think he deliberately just points at things, but it doesn't get in the way of the story.
The interview I watched actually of him just was he did say that that stuff's in there, but it's not what the film's about, and it's not
Exactly. So
intentional
I think
sort of thing.
I think he's right, but I think that's not the end. I appreciate the film more than like there's certain bits in this film where I think it's supposed. I think Cronenberg is inviting you to laugh at the ridiculousness of it. Like,
Oh yeah,
like, when those fucking weird chairs that they sit in and like move about, I think Cronenberg's too smart for you to take that.
Yeah.
He expects you to find that.
It's deliberately. It's sort of like slightly kind of It's it's like a disabling chair almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, should we do the plot anyway? Do the plot? The plot is this artist. What's his name? The artist. It's a great artist name as well. I keep forgetting the blooming name. What's it?
Saul something, isn't it?
Where is it gone? Saul Tensor, isn't it? Yeah. Now I just remembered it, but I couldn't. Really good artist name. Oh yeah, there it is. And yeah, he's a performance artist who harvests his naturally through evolution grows new organs that he then harvests and in interactive, well, not necessarily interactive, but in performance art shows that he then I guess sells the organs as works of art. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think he does do that, doesn't he?
I think the show is the art, and I guess then the organs might be the gift shop at the end of the museum or something.
Yeah, and like I say, he said he wrote this in 1992, and it is prescient now. He is writing that it's like apparently he did a year as a scientist and cell biology.
Oh yeah, I mean Cronenberg's a smart cookie, right? Like he's very well read and keeps up to date with things, and But on top of that, he's also like that's the thing I like about Cronenberg is there's not many people who merge the two. There's plenty of people with really interesting ideas, and but they can't sustain because making a feature film, especially if you're making it to a certain level of which is good enough for theatrical release, and I mean it's a long process. It's a very not many people. There's lots of people who have these great ideas, but then to stay on point through the whole process and deliver it looking really fantastic, and that's a rare talent, right? That can actually sustain.
Do you think this film though was one of those lockdown films though? Because the set was quite sparse. The population of the film was quite low. Or was it?
I don't know.
Was it slightly low budget? I mean, the set was fine. It was good and stuff, but it didn't detract from anything. I just wondered whether it seemed quite sparse. I just wondered whether it was one of those ones that was part. Most films we're seeing now are either partly or entirely filmed, during a lockdown period. That
I mean, certainly it probably was done under those conditions, and I'm guessing people had to get tested and all that stuff. But I'm not sure if it was conceived, because some films were even. I don't know if it's that part. I think you're talking about films that were conceived as lockdown films. Like, okay, let's do something.
Not that. It more just that they made compromises on the number of people and the sets and stuff where it wasn't. A lot of stuff was in enclosed sets and stuff rather than. Because you couldn't go out and things like that,
So you're wondering maybe if it had been made in a different, there would have been more along the lines of like extras and
there would have been more extras. I wondered, and more external shots.
Yeah, it could be. Although I don't think it's to the detriment of the
No,
film.
like I said, it didn't
Yeah.
bother me. I just wondered whether it was. There's been a few films we've seen where it's sort of, it's the complete opposite of RRR, which was like completely out there and loads of hundreds of extras and super, that definitely didn't have a lockdown feel to it.
No.
So yeah, just there's been a few films like that where it's sort of like, all right, let's still make a film. We'll still make the film we want to make, but we'll sort of organize it around these 5 sets,
Right. But
rotate them and whatnot.
It didn't feel compromised by it, right? Like it feels like it's supposed to be the film it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So there's another. So then there's another character whose son has been killed by his own mother, and the little boy's developed. And I thought this was really fascinating. Is somehow he's evolved to be able to digest plastic waste, right? Like he's like the next evolution of. And even this, I mean, Cronenberg's so smart at second guessing himself. What I like about this as well is it's a cool kind of concept, but Viggo Mortensen has this great line where he points out when he's like, well, isn't that a bit quick for this? Like, if I cut my finger off, it doesn't mean you'll be. And then the other character just goes, well, I don't know quite how it works. I quite like how they kind of got round.
Well,
That's another self-referential thing, I suppose, is, but again, doesn't get in the way of the.
Yeah, but he also but for that kid, it transpires that they created that within him, though, isn't it?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, but with Viggo, with Soul Tensor, the evolution is more natural, and so it's sort of like he's got the precursor. So he can probably do it, but not quite. Whereas the kid can do it with enhancements of some kind.
Right.
And that's what I gathered from it anyway.
There's those chocolate bars going around, like the synthetic chocolate bars.
Yeah. Which are kind of
We're not doing a very good job of explaining the plot, but I think that's fine because I think this is a film. It does make sense. It's just we're not very good at conveying it. I think it's a film you need to see in order for it to make sense, right? Like just go see it.
It's not super complicated. If you want to explain it's just a film about evolution and people discover that they can eat plastic, and that's good enough, I think. Because it's different enough to kind of play around with, and then the fact that he didn't, he used a performance artist as his central character within the future where the circumstances are completely different as well. So therefore, he takes it off in a different direction of showing a future that's kind of very weird and not soulless, but I was thinking kind of like sort of emotionally desolate sort of thing. I felt like it's kind of like, because it's still that kind of Warhol-esque sort of pretentious art crowd, but they're clearly living in some sort of almost desolate wasteland of a future. But they still exist. I liked that aspect of it, like that, because I think about that a lot. Like, when I sort of think about the I have those fears for the future and things, and especially climate change, and in the things that I write, I think about that a lot. Where you think about these sort of these interrelationships, these either stupid jobs or not necessarily bullshit jobs, but I think about those too. But these roles that we all have, and whether they can exist.
We're going to get checked off. I'll remind you where.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
You were saying about the roles that
Yeah,
we
just if you look at across the broad spectrum of society that we live in now, and we're always told, it's going to get so much worse in the future due to climate change and all the rest of it, and a lot of sci-fi films are kind of like you go to an extreme, like an extreme authoritarianism or extreme climate change, or one thing or the other. But what they often don't do is sort of explore, these roles, the broad spectrum of all the different roles, still existing within.
Right. Yeah. So in the case of this film, like how does the performance artist approach these new mutations or whatever that are happening? Right?
Yeah, well, and also just the fact that they're living in this kind of sort of like horrible angular. It's almost like that E.M. Foster. Did I talk to you about that before? The E.M. Foster book called what is it called? Where everyone's living in cells, sort of thing, and everything is provided.
No, I don't think I know.
For you. There is a I think a BBC drama of that. It's The Machine Stops. That's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
And
I don't know that one. I've not read
it's a really good book, but everybody's living in these cells and everything is provided for them, sort of thing. It's got that feel to it, where like where everything's closeted or whatever. Everyone's sort of like, and you don't go out very much. And like I say, that's what has that lockdown feel to it as well.
Right.
But it could have been either intentional or just go with it. Either way, it works. To give this sort of weird closeted sort of empty lives coalescing, still trying to do the same thing. I am fascinated by that. Still trying to do the same thing. As climate change progresses, which we are already in that situation where we are still trying to do the same thing.
Right.
Everybody's still, middle management haven't like disappeared overnight, or other like really pointless jobs or whatever, haven't just disappeared, despite the fact that things are already pretty bad, like in a lot of places.
It's the whole polishing the brass on the Titanic thing, right? Like,
yeah.
Any circumstance you stick to your routines, give you a certain grounding, right? I guess to stop you from totally freaking out.
Yeah, and there's humor, and there's also like pathos in that, and
this is a very funny film as well. It's worth mentioning. I think it's not played tongue in cheek, because that would be annoying, but clearly the humor's there.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
And Cronenberg's fully aware of. I mean, really good cast as well. All the Viggo Mortensen's fantastic. Everyone's good in it. I wanted to mention actually. So there's these two characters who are like.
I know who you're talking about.
Played by Don McKellar and Kristen Stewart, who are like, their job is to kind of catalogue new organs being created, right? I thought they were really good, especially Don McKellar. So Don McKellar was kind of someone I'd never really considered, but he's really good in this, and it reminded me that he directed a short film many years ago, like 1992, starring David Cronenberg, which I've always really liked, called Blue, which is a short film about David Cronenberg plays a guy who's he owns like a carpet factory or something, and he's obsessed with like this porno loop, like this 5-minute loop from the 70s, and it's just him talking about his obsession with this one short film, and it's a really interesting little movie that Don McKellar made back in the day. So it was kind of nice to see the favour repaid, and he has a major role.
What's he called?
The short film,
Yeah.
Blue.
Blue. Okay, it's called Blue. Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I have a copy. I can share it with you if you're interested.
Yeah.
I feel better.
I would be. I would be.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I'm just making a note. Send Blue to Robin.
Yeah. Did you have a pair of these then?
Speaking of pair of these, you've also got Leia Sadu in this film. And I'll say no more about it. But that was an extra added bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I just found out today while looking at this film, she's set to star in a remake of Emmanuel.
What's Emmanuel? Why do I?
Emmanuel was that like hit 70s softcore film starring Sylvia Christel, basically posh people bonking around the world. And it turned into a whole series. There's like a whole bunch of Emmanuel films.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's the new Emmanuel, apparently, which is that's quite exciting.
Yeah, I'll say that you're drifting down a road.
Yes, no, I'm bringing the tone down. I'm lowering.
Yeah, you're drifting.
But I just say what I mean. I don't want to be disingenuous. I mean that is, to be honest, because I think Leia Sadu is fantastic. Anyway, I mean it's not just a prurient interest. I think she is a genuinely like. Even if I didn't fancy her as well, she's a real screen presence, right? I think the camera really likes Leia. She's got a movie star's charisma and face or something about her, right? So I think she's really good. And you've got who else? Welket Bungwe, is that his name? The guy who plays the cop. So it turns out Viggo Mortensen's like. Are you laughing at my pronunciation?
I'm trying to find
probably
it.
deservedly so, but and he plays. So it turns out, Viggo Mortensen's. Anyway, we don't need to get into it. Yeah. But I don't know. It's difficult. I thought I would have a lot more to say about this film, but it's actually turns out to be one of those cases where you should just fucking see it yourself.
Yeah. I watched it. There's a really good cinema. It's expensive near me, but it's got proper sofas and you can bring your drinks and so because some of the other films that I've went to the cinema to see that we've watched. We went to. I'm not going to name the cinema, but yeah, it's a bit scuzzy and smells of piss and stuff. So I've had such a fucking fantastic time watching this film. So it was, the sound was really amazing, and obviously Viggo Mortensen is doing this sort of.
Because he's throwing something in his throat.
Yeah. It's visceral and it was just fantastic experience just watching it anyway. Although
I would like to see it. I didn't see it on a big screen. I very much would like to see it on a big screen.
I would definitely recommend it. Although they serve food in this cinema, but we had already eaten. But the woman next to us had ordered some food. I didn't think that was a good idea. And he's like,
I'm not.
And he's eating this
food in theaters in general. I don't.
No, you can order sort of like a meal, you can order like chips or whatever. But I'm not because it's silent, so I don't mind if it's noisy food. I don't like particularly, but not for this film because he spends half the time trying to eat out of a wobbly spoon, and he makes the most horrible noises out of his mouth.
Did you notice there's like 2 or 3 scenes as well where you actually see what they're eating, and they're all eating really unappetizing looking food, right? Like all the food in this film looks disgusting. I don't know what it is. Some kind of weird reprocessed like plastic or like something. Yeah, it just really.
That's what I mean. It's like because he talks about body horror, but I feel like it's body dysmorphia horror in a way. Like a lot of the time. It's not necessarily dysmorphia. It comes from a place of sort of dysmorphia, then into wonder in a way, like wonder at the ability of our bodies to kind of to adapt and produce new things, or and biology in general. But the kind of the soul tensor character just sort of is eating. His body is eating itself alive in a way. Kind of that's what it feels like all the time.
There's certainly something I like about all Cronenberg films. Really, is there's a joyous kind of like he's not scared of biology, and he's not scared of like everyone's like quite like the things they do, like just opening themselves up and zipping it and cutting themselves open. Like there's no regard for like blood loss or will we survive this or scarring or it's just I appreciate that kind of just willful abandonment of just like any sort of trepidation about cutting yourself open or squeamishness. There's no squeamishness.
No squeamishness. I also like the turtle thing. Is it a turtle? Or did I imagine that? Because again, I watched this about 3 weeks ago as well. So
you mean the little control device?
Well, there's the big one.
Yeah.
That you put yourself in. Was that made out of a turtle? Is that what it was? Or I can't actually remember.
I was thinking of it as a nut. I was thinking like a shell of a nut or something. But it could be a turtle.
Oh, okay. I thought it was. I couldn't remember.
I don't think they say, "Hey, what are you doing in that turtle?"
No, I thought they'd said, "Well, get the turtle thing." the dissecting machine.
Right.
All right. No. Well, you watched some more recently than me, probably.
Yeah, but there's so much in this film that I again, that's what I appreciate about it is you get totally sucked up in it and enjoy it for what it is. But I can imagine coming back to this film kind of again and again and finding more in it and not just coming back to look at.
Do you think what other films are there? I mean, for me, Existence. That was in the.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were punning.
Oh no.
I paid the rent.
Anyway, couldn't get them on camera. Do you think they would pair together? Do you think they're actually? Do you remember it very well? Like
I haven't seen Existence in a very long time.
The plot was of Existence.
Existence was a bit more of a.
It's just that they came out.
What is reality? A bit of a proto-Matrix kind of thing, wasn't it? It was like, wasn't it a video game that people couldn't distinguish from reality? It was.
Yeah, but it was really similar in that the fleshy controls and it goes into your back and stuff. So it was Matrix-y, but at the same time more to do with a biological aspect. And because they were both, so this was obviously written in the 90s and that was made in the 90s, wasn't it? Right. And then, so I wonder how well they go together because, when we saw, maybe I saw that with you. I don't know. Anyway,
Existence.
Yeah, maybe. But when I saw that, it was like it was in that context of the Matrix and stuff, and so everything was seen in that light of, or the Truman Show. Yeah, everything was seen in the light of sort of almost. It was a weird time, wasn't it? The fact that we had Big Brother and stuff as well. There
were a lot of films, and what was that one? There was Vanilla Sky. There was a lot of films in the late 90s that were all based around what is reality.
Also us watching ourselves,
Yeah.
Like self-referential, or something. Anyway, yeah. So, but then now in the I think you might see that film in a different light, maybe alongside this film. I don't know. Anyway, that's my final thought.
I said, I think it works in and of itself, but if you're a long-time Cronenberg watcher, I think there's I dislike this phrase, but I suppose Easter eggs, I think, is I'm still not quite sure why that became. Why did Easter egg become a synonym for?
Because you go and
hidden
hunt for
features?
Easter eggs, isn't it?
Oh, is that it?
Yeah. It's boring, isn't it?
But no one used it. As far as I know, no one referred to hidden things as an Easter egg until things started turning up as bonus content on DVDs. Right, that's when I first became aware of this, using Easter egg as a synonym for.
What was that? Is it that early? Was it?
That's when I remember it. Yeah, it's like people would say, "Oh, have a look out for an Easter egg on the DVD of."
No, I didn't. I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, so clearly there's nothing earlier than that then for you.
Not as far as I know. I didn't even know it was that early. I thought it was more of a kind of the type of thing that people who drive Teslas look out for. I don't know. In their cars. Anyway, whatever.
Anyway, yeah, we should probably be quiet now.
Well, that's the perfect segue to end on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be quiet.
Yeah.